Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, a show that endeavors to bring you some of the big stories in British Columbia, Canada, and the wide world, the stories that people are discussing around the water cooler. And, speaking of the water cooler, a guy who is so cool, it's hard to believe he could be so cool and be the co-host with the most on this show, is the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic. And John, great to have you on as well, of course, as my stunning co-host on this show. And we start with some tough news. The new strain of COVID-19 is upon us. It is sweeping across the country.
I just don't know how to react to this, except I know how I'm reacting to this. I'm tired of it. I am so tired of all this. And yet here we are. The new Omicron variant BA.5 is apparently, as you sweeping across the country. So many people have got it. I don't know if we have the energy, Robin, to deal with these things, yet we have to. Look, get your variant, wear your masks. It's going to keep us out of the hospital. It's going to keep us from getting really sick. Even though this variant is very contagious, I know a lot of people are talking about boosters.
I think boosters is the way to go here, although, of course, they say that the variant may be able to do an end run around some of the boosters. I still think your chances of getting seriously sick if you're fully vaccinated is quite low. And there's been a big call for the fourth booster. People over 70 have been getting their fourth booster. And apparently BC Health is getting a tremendous number of phone calls from people who are under 70 saying, where is my booster? How come I can't get one too? Well, the women in charge of the vaccination strategy is Dr. Penny Ballum. And here is how she responds.
The big message is the recommendation is really the best thing to do is wait for the fall. That is what NACI has recommended. The reasons Dr. Lavoie has gone over. This is where we're most exposed to respiratory illness. We're moving indoors through the fall and the winter. Our risk is highest, and you want to get your booster when your risk is highest. And the group that were approved for the spring booster were much more vulnerable. So what we will do is allow people, we will be sending an update around to everyone 12 and over and give them an update on NACI guidelines. We'll be doing this through the Get Vaccinated system. And what we will tell people is it's all about the fall. We want you to wait to get your next booster in the fall. If you haven't had your first booster, go get it now. But if for your next booster, it's get it in the fall. But if you really feel that you've got special circumstances, you can give the call center a call and we'll arrange for you to have a booster now.
So now you can phone BC Health Services number underneath and book a booster if you feel you really need one, especially if you're going to be traveling overseas. I'm phoning that number. That is great. It's the right call. Again, despite all of the anti-vax and anti-mandate commentary out there, everyone needs to get vaccinated, Robin. I'm starting to get very loud and boisterous about their get your booster. You still might get COVID, but man, oh man, you won't die from it. That's what I'll be doing.
That's the big message, John. I just think that we have to accept a lot of people are going to get sick with this. And I know a number of people myself, usually they get it for 4 to 5 days. They feel lousy. They've got various headaches and coughs and things going on, but I don't know anybody who's gone to the hospital. And I have to say that the majority of the people in my circle have been vaccinated. And I think that's the big help. And, talking about medical issues, we switch over from the COVID to the doctor shortage in British Columbia. And it's remaining top of mind, Johnny.
Premiers gathered in Victoria, because of course they wanted to recognize the Victoria Rumble. No. Premiers gathered in Victoria, and John Horgan called for Ottawa to come forward with significant new money on healthcare.
We have a national plan to recruit and retain and train the next generation of healthcare workers, whether they be social workers, nurse practitioners, registered nurses, surgeons, GPs. The whole continuum of care needs to be revisited, and now is the time to do that. We as a council, I've been at the table for 5 years, And the number one issue when I arrived was healthcare. And I'm leaving 5 years later, and the number one issue is healthcare.
Justin Trudeau wasn't there. Our prime minister wasn't there. And the feds say there'll be no more money coming without a specific plan of how it will be spent. Fair enough. So while the governments argue and meet in beautiful cities and point fingers at each other, more and more British Columbians have no doctor, Rob.
That's true, John. And the folks from BC Healthcare Matters, who have been campaigning on this for quite some time, they gathered in front of the Empress Hotel where the premiers were gathered to make their feelings felt. So we thought we'd go down there and take their pulse.
And why are we here today? Is it because we have nothing better to do with our time? No. It's because we have a very clear message today, don't we? Yes. We want doctors. I don't think everybody on the other side of the road heard you. We want doctors.
So you're surprised to see this much media out?
I had no idea when we planned this. I had no idea that this much media would be here today. I had a feeling that they'd all be inside, but I'm really happy to see them all outside today. Oh, woo! That would be really good for us. As much honking as possible.
So how much have you seen the medical profession change even since you retired 14 years ago?
Drastic. You can't find a doctor. When we came here about 13 years ago, we could just about find a family doctor. Someone said register with that doctor because he has spaces. But in the last 5 years, both my wife and my own family doctors have retired, and I'm totally dependent now on a phone up a doctor to get a prescription.
So you're a doctor who can't get a doctor.
I'm a doctor who can't get a doctor, that's right.
So it's got that serious and that bad, and that's why you're here.
Yes, and as I was just mentioning, if you do look at the research, and there's well-described research articles in the medical literature that talk about increased death rate by not having continuing care by your family doctor, and you extrapolate that to the number of population in this province, probably 1,000 to 1,500 people will die every year in this province for the simple reason they don't have a family doctor.
We need doctors now in Victoria. My doctor's in Ladysmith. Get a load of that.
How does BC Healthcare Matters feel about the national stage and shifting to the national stage with this issue?
Well, I think we are residents of British Columbia and we are residents and citizens of Canada. And so any measures that help improve universal health care across the country, we're in support of that. But right now, our group is here representing BC. And what we know that BC needs right now, and action to address right now, is that every resident of BC needs timely access to a family doctor. And we do not have that. It is demonstrated by over 1 million residents not having one right now.
It seems that Premier Horgan, though, is saying to Ottawa, you're not paying your fair share, you're only paying 22%, you should be paying 50%. Do you feel he has an argument that has merit, or is this just to delay the process in terms of the province moving forward on your demands?
I would say that I'm not convinced entirely that money is the solution to this. And so if more money is needed and if we can get more money and that helps, then great, we're in support of that. But maybe also better choices are needed to be made with the money that we already have. So we're really willing and ready to hear from the health minister and the premier and see some facts and show us where the solutions are. It's their job to find the solutions.
And do you agree that the doctors need to be more fully brought into this process and in terms of negotiations for solutions?
Absolutely. I think that if we have learned anything over the past decades, I hope that it is that collaboration needs to be at every single table when these discussions are taking part. And I think that that is a key thing that has been missing.
Do we have a message to send to the government? Yes. Is there something that we want?
Doctors!
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What do we want?
Doctors!
What do we want?
Doctors!
Now.
So Robin, on our next show, we're so privileged to have Shachi Kurl, the president of the pollster company Angus Reid Institute, will be joining us and chatting. Local reporter, now national and prominent figure in media, will be asking, how damaging is this doctor shortage to the provincial government? I mean, is it making any difference in people's minds, what they're thinking about their beloved premier and his government? When a new leader is picked, guess what? I've been hearing rumors they might call a spring election with a new mandate, right? And you better believe
looking for a new mandate. They want a new mandate. Go ahead.
Looking for a new mandate, and right in the middle of this, sticking right in the middle of all this, is this doctor shortage. Man, will that be a huge issue. Robin, I think it's time now to switch topics again.
We are switching over, John. We are switching over because that's what we love to do on the Rumble Room as we rumble around. And this is an issue we've been following for months, John. And it's what's going on in Ukraine, this terrible war, the unfair and bloody invasion by the Russians, and the response in British Columbia and Canada, which has been hugely supportive. And the City of Langford has been incredibly positive in this and setting a great benchmark for a lot of other communities across the country. They raised thousands and thousands of dollars for Ukrainian relief. And then on top of that, a 4-person humanitarian mission traveled to Ukraine, and they were there on the ground. They brought a cameraman, and they are back now. So we spoke to them, and we also collected some of their video from the trip. And here is a look at what they experienced in Ukraine.
And suddenly here you are. Does it seem a little surreal to be back in Victoria?
Yeah, it's a bit surreal. I mean, it was 7 days we were gone, and it just seems like it was yesterday because there was so much stuff going on there and so many things to think about. And of course, we were trying to put ourselves in their position. I mean, they're in a difficult position over there, and it's really unfortunate that the war is started in the first place. But what the Russians are doing to these people, like bombing civilians, bombing schools, bombing hospitals, and bombing supermarkets now, they're using the citizens of Ukraine as targets.
Well, part of our goal, part of our mission working with Global Medic and their sister organization, Global Fire, was to actually assist with the delivery of firefighting equipment and more in particular, fire rescue equipment. They were pretty good at putting out fires, but not cutting rebar, not breaking up concrete, not finding trapped individuals. So their request is in fact for rescue equipment, which Global Medic and Global Fire are providing with the under the umbrella of our project.
There are about 2,000 internally displaced people living in the community right now. So they need food, and besides helping those people who live in the community, they also send a part of this food kits to the hotspots of Ukraine, where all people need them even more. So instead of focusing on some problems to improve the condition, to improve the educational process, we have to think about bomb shelters. Volunteers from this community, they organize making this protective nets.
Our reality was we couldn't communicate when we were leaving Langford. We couldn't communicate dates of when we were going to. We couldn't even say where we were going. The security was so tight because of the risk. That's unbelievable. We had to turn our phones off when we were in Ukraine, so we couldn't be pinged by the Russians.
Did you see a lot of damage? Did you see yourself personally a lot of buildings that had been bombed and hit over the last 130 days?
No, we were in western Ukraine to the north, and they were bombed earlier because they had the Air Force base there, and they've left that alone for the last month or so. So we felt fairly confident, from the people that we knew on the ground from Global Medic. They were actually telling us where to go and what to do and looking out for us.
This community has a building here right now. They have 28 displaced individuals, and they can hold up to 50. This is an area that is benefited from aid from Global Medic and the City of Langford to support humanitarian foodstuffs and other supplies in the way of medical and other supportive care. This is an area, of course, where we wish to continue to support these individuals going forward with the donations that we receive from the City of Langford, in conjunction with that from Global Medic, and hopefully we can continue to provide these individuals the care, the support, the food, the basics of life that they need but are unable to get otherwise.
So the whole family is here, his wife, children, the parents of his wife. They feel relatively safe because there is no safe place in Ukraine now.
They're going to fight hard, and I guess, it's up to the West to give them as much supplies as they can. That's what they ask for, that's what they need, because they're not moving. So, and when they're targeting the citizens of Ukraine, you can only do that for so long before it actually really becomes a major stress for all these families, because they're already, searching for help. And when we showed up, they were very appreciative that we actually showed up. They couldn't believe that we showed up in a war zone, basically to go out there and offer support and hope for these people, and to basically help them, with the food supplies and, the sustainability of what we can do for them.
This is something we hear every day. You can hear it when you go outside. It's very loud.
Oh, so it's outside right now and inside. So that means the missiles are coming from somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know where they're coming to, but yeah, but.
While we were there were a number of air raid sirens that went off, to alert the community that, missiles were flying overhead or nearby. Unfortunately, none of them landed in our particular area. But, essentially the whole area of Ukraine is under potential attack. Fortunately, we didn't have to endure any of those challenges, nor did we see any direct impact. However, one of the political officials that we were working with, a member of parliament who has a big trucking organization, one of his trucks left Lutz, went to deliver supplies, and was hit by a missile and destroyed. And he had to go that next day, to deal with the driver and deal with the remnants of the vehicle. So, it's everywhere.
So as you see, this is the street in the front.
Yes.
And here it's all the, it belongs to the territory of the house. And all of it,
Yes.
These are the fields of our neighbors, and this one is ours. We had many plans, our business. We wanted to buy our own apartment. We want to start a family, maybe have children. Now everything is destroyed. I have to take a little pause.
Не було що такого, не переживали.
It's very complicated, very hard. It's a hell. Many friends died, and many people that we know. We are in the food cellar, and this is the place which we were hiding in when we heard air alert for the first time. But when we got here with my mom and my brother, we understood that it's even more dangerous in here than outside, and than to stay inside the house. So this is what most people have. They don't have special bomb shelters. That's why sometimes they just ignore air alerts, because they just don't have anywhere to hide.
All these people that are being impacted, they had no choice in this. This was done to them, and the idea is to find a way to make this easier for them to get through what they're going through. Right now, Global Medic has different programs throughout Ukraine. as well as distribution and logistics centers in Moldova, Romania, and Poland.
Now, we'd all heard about a sister city, that you were going to form a sister city agreement. Now I understand it's four sister cities. How did that happen?
Well, we met with an MP for the federal government there. He was an MP, and he said, look, we're getting good help to Lutsk and to Kiev and to some of the bigger cities, but the smaller cities aren't getting any help at all, and yet they're getting a lot of refugees and a lot of displaced people there. So they needed to be able to feed them, because people are taking them into their homes, they're taking them into buildings they refurbish to have them as a place they can stay that is fairly safe.
These are volunteers who protect the community.
We are here and we sign a document that it proclaims that we become partners, sister cities we call it.
How unusual was it for a small delegation from a relatively small city in North America or anyone else to go to Ukraine? Were there many other delegations like yours that have been showing up to lend support?
No, there haven't been any in these cities. Like, they are sort of on the outskirts of the bigger cities, so they don't get much attention at all. So that was what Igor said, the MP. They said, hey, we should go to these areas where they really need a lot of help and nobody's really connected with them. So when we went there, they were pretty happy to see us and would give us the shirt off their back. They fed us, they did everything that they could to make us feel accommodated, and yet we're there to help them. And you know, they just work, everybody's working together. They're all, you know, fighting for the same thing, their democracy and their freedom. And that's a real freedom that they're fighting for, not what you see in Canada with the flags going everywhere. We're talking about people's lives that are getting lost here, and, you know, communities that are getting devastated.
Feeling of uncertainty about the future is so strong that now when I go to the supermarket and I see, for example, pasta with discount, I don't buy two, because I think if I buy too much and I will be killed when I sleep, I won't need it.
You're wasting.
Their concern was that as the war wanes on, there'll be less and less interest and less support from Canada and from other countries. But you know, I can't emphasize enough how appreciative they've been of our humanitarian efforts, of the military supplies that have been provided. But their message was, please do not forget us. Our needs are great, and they're getting greater. The longer the conflict, we're thinking summer now, but it won't be too long before we'll transition to the fall and winter, when it becomes really, really critical. We cannot stop sending supplies and equipment.
All we heard was they want more weapons to fight the Russians, because the Russians are, you know, killing so many civilians now and using them as targets. They want weapons to fight back. And so that's basically everybody we talked to. The citizens all the way up and through said, we want to be able to win this war. We want to fight. We're not leaving. We're going to stay to the last man, just because of what's happened. And they're saying they're not going to get moved out of the Ukraine, which is their land. It was a really eye-opening trip, I can tell you. One of the most eye-opening trips I've ever been in my life, you know, to see what's happening there and what's going on.
Now that was a great video summary. So emotional, so compelling. And listen, this is money used here has been raised privately. This is not public sector money. Congratulations, Stu Young. Congratulations, Bob Beckett. Congratulations to the City of Vancouver. You know, everyone in Canada has been reaching out to help Ukrainians fight for their freedom. So much good work is being done, but you know, the war isn't over. Okay, the war is not over. They're still going through hell, as we saw in the video, And I have a feeling that things could get a lot worse, Robin, before this war is over.
I agree, John. And, you mentioned that a lot of private money is being raised. It's also appropriate, and it's been the right thing. The Canadian government has stepped forward and got involved and sent money on our behalf, and they've sent weapons as well. We've sent other supplies to help the Ukrainian people. I'm a little disappointed that we decided to help the Germans out by sending equipment over so they could continue to get oil supplies from Russia. Russia's getting billions of dollars by selling their oil. And why are we helping them with that when a lot of that money is going back into armaments to attack Ukraine? However, it is still good to see that Canadians generally are rallying around the Ukrainian flag. And that's about it for now for the Rumble Room for this week. John, if you could again tell our many viewers how they can support the Rumble Room, become friends of the Rumble Room, and follow us in our future programs.
Simply no end of fascinating news and issues to talk about. So I encourage folks to jump on and get a little bit deeper perspective of what's happening out there. And they can do that by certainly hopping onto our Facebook page, which is the heart and soul of the Rumble Room. There's a Twitter account, which gets all sorts of cool commentary. We also have a YouTube page where we host all of our videos and clips. And that's a ton of fun to roam through. We also have a Facebook news and views group that allows people to post their opinions, their events, what they're doing in reaction to our commentary and the news. We have an Instagram page. We also have a TikTok page. Lots of fun stuff going on there. So, as stated earlier, Robin, I remain, as always, the Saanich sensation. I think, however, only in my house. My name is John Jurisic.
And I remain your humble servant, Robin Adair. And remember that humble rhymes with rumble. So rumble on.